First of all, thank you all for being here today. Thank you guys. My thunder was a little bit stolen because I was going to talk about these 5 incredible women and all they are doing and all they are going to do. I'm really, really inspired to be here with them today. I actually never imagined myself in a C-suite role when I graduated college. Just gives you a little hint of how old I am. And now, 3 C-suites later, it's a big responsibility. But it's also an incredible opportunity, a great challenge. And what I love about what we're going to talk about today is how women are rewriting what it means to be in the C-suite today. And so we're going to jump right into it because we only have 30 minutes. I first just wanted to say is, what is more interesting right now is that women leaders are actually changing leadership itself. And you guys are going to talk about that. And that the rules that many of us inherited, and I inherited quite a few rules, and hopefully the rules for you guys have gotten a little bit better. I'm really dating myself right now. I sound like around authority, visibility, risk-taking, and even success was written for a different era. So the real question isn't how women succeed in the C-suite, but it's really how they're rewriting the C-suite. So we're going to actually break a few of the rules, and we're going to start with a lightning round. You guys ready? And I did not give them the question in advance, even though they asked. Leadership today requires, we're going to just go right down the line. Fill in the blank.
Flexibility.
Vulnerability.
Courage.
Empathy.
Authenticity and patience.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. All right, we're going to get going. I'm going to start with Brigette. So, Brigette, ready, Brigette?
Right.
Yeah. And I hope our team will give you a little bit more background on what they're doing in their roles, et cetera, because we really didn't have ample time to introduce themselves, but I think it would be great if you could hear more about what they're doing, because they all are doing amazing things. All right, Brigette, you ready? Okay. You've led in large-scale organizations and challenger brands. What's one traditional leadership norm you consciously chose not to inherit?
All right, Wendy. So, hi, everyone. I'm Brigette Wolf. I'm currently the CMO of my Mochi, which, if you don't know what that is, I would say go check out the block party because we're sampling every day. But it's little premium scoops of ice cream wrapped in a soft, sweet dough. Find the purple box. That's my commercial. But I started in investment banking, and then I moved to Kraft Foods and Mondelez. So I was a kind of classically trained 20-year CPG vet. In all of those protocols that we watch everyone grow up into those C-suites. And about 3 years ago, I joined my Mochi. So to me, as I was thinking about this question, I think what's so important, and I really believe this, whether it's a man or a woman, is every time you have a new boss, right, there's an opportunity to learn what kind of leadership traits did I like? What kind of things did I not like? And always the question was, well, when I got in the big chair, what would I do differently? So I think one of the things that I've thrown out is not having the assumption it has to be done the way the expectation is it has to be done, but how I wanted to be led and how I want to lead. And I think that doesn't have to be such a radical thing. It's just showing up as who you are and how you want to deal with your team and trusting them. And I think willing to break some of the protocols of what does it mean to be in the C-suite? What does it mean to look like, to dress like, to talk like? I wanted to be the leaders who I wanted to then, quote, roll over on railroad tracks for and do anything for. So that to me is the break of the mold, not how it's been, but how you'd like it to be.
Love it. Okay, Tiffany, you've long advocated for systemic change. What outdated leadership assumption is still shaping executive expectations?
Thank you for having me. The Tory Burch Foundation's mission is to increase women's economic power, so I'm particularly excited to be here. And my life's work is advancing women and girls. That's pretty much why I'm on the planet. So I love this role as president of the Tory Burch Foundation. And we increase women's economic power by supporting entrepreneurs that are creating businesses that are built to last. I think that the outdated assumption about leadership is that leaders have to have all of the answers, when I actually think that leaders just need to know which questions to ask, and then to support their teams in answering those questions and clearing barriers, I think is really important. My favorite definition of leadership is by a man named Marshall Gans. He's at Harvard. He says that leadership is taking responsibility for enabling others to achieve a shared purpose in the face of uncertainty. And we used to have things like big budgets, lots of headcount, clear strategy to enable others to achieve a shared purpose. But now we're in a new landscape. And when you asked that lightning round, I said vulnerability because I think the most important thing that every leader, especially in the C-suite, needs to have in order to enable others is clarity about who they are. Clarity about why they're here, so that that can serve as a moor and an anchor for some higher purpose for the team and some objective that you're trying to achieve. So thank you for having me.
I feel like we could just take about 2 hours now and unpack everything you just said. So thank you. All right, Carina. Sorry, switch around here a little bit.
Hi.
Hi. You operate in luxury, and that's a space built on a lot of heritage and a lot of legacy. How do you modernize leadership within that kind of tradition?
Well, thank you so much for having me, and big thank you for Brand Innovators for hosting these incredible days. So we run luxury retail. We are owned by Rolex, and we sell all different luxury watch brands and fine jewelry with over 200 retail stores across the globe. So for us, obviously, what really defines the brand and the product is the heritage and the authenticity. But also with the authenticity comes a new way of leadership style. So I think today we want to be like open. We have open door policies, and we are like redefining leadership by personally, I think of leadership as authentic and also as servant leadership. Like I feel I'm at service to my team by asking the right questions, to Tiffany's point, by also orchestrating, but not by demanding certain things. So I think it's like a collaborative process of moving the brand forward, remaining authentic to the brand, but also giving us space to evolve into the future of the brand.
Or on a regular basis, I'm going to question you that's not on our list. You know, can you give some examples, or maybe one example of how you've done that, given how stuck in a lot of the folks are at a lot of the luxury brands in terms of what they will and won't do?
I mean, I've been in a CMO role now for 15 years across different luxury and premium brands, and I've seen it shift tremendously. So I've really seen the, like double executive assistants and like meetings being like a month out to like really full on open door. Like our CEOs today have a full open door policy. So even in theory, like anyone can just knock on the door and say, hey, I want to run this by you, or I have a question. And I think that's the culture that we're trying to establish, not moving forward as well. And by really bringing in like diverse voices, by really like establishing our communities around the brand, and also like really making sure that the brand is grounded in community and culture.
That's amazing. So you're really humanizing things, which is awesome. So I saw Kim speak 2 days ago, and I think she gave me one of the biggest inspirations of my entire momhood, which is like 20-something years. So Kim, we're going to ask you the next question. You're building brand in a category that challenges legacy systems. How does that shape how you lead internally?
Thank you so much, Wendy, for coming the other day, and thank you guys for having me. I am the Chief Brand Officer at a company called Bobbie. We are an organic infant formula company founded and led by moms. We're in year 5 of selling in the market, and I would say because I joined the company 6 years ago in our founder's basement in San Francisco, like a very classic San Francisco startup story, I didn't inherit a culture. I got to build the culture truly from the ground up. And it was such a huge awakening for me. I had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. And I said, what do I want? Like, what type of environment do I want to work in where I am allowed to be a fluid person who has 2 young babies and is struggling to figure it all out and throwing balance out the window? And how do we normalize that? How do we accept it and embrace it and make it a safe space to be in a messy season of life and also be building your career at the same time. And so I feel the privilege that I had to be able to hire other moms who were in the same season or pregnant or having their first baby and make it a-okay to just show up as your whole self. And so for me, it was very much leading by example, leading from the front. I will put pediatrician appointments on my calendar. I will tell people my baby didn't sleep last night, so you're not getting my whole self today. Giving permission to your team to also be able to share what's really going on, and that none of us, even at the top, we don't all have our shit together every day. And I think normalizing that it's messy and life is messy in this season and that it's all okay has been such a blessing to us, and like has helped us bring in incredible talent to our team who want to be able to build a brand that they believe in, but also they want to come to work every day in a culture that they also believe in.
You're really setting an example for the entire world and industry to create an environment that's conducive to women where they can be their whole self, right? It's amazing. And I'm sure you have no problems recruiting and no problems.
No problems. So. And I'll say too, on the brand marketing side, when people feel that sense of safety at work, the creative energy that they bring to a room is up leveled. You get the best version of your team when they're not scared to just show up 100% with whatever's going on in their life. And it's allowed for sharing of ideas and people whose voices may not come through in a traditional marketing structure. All voices are welcome. Everybody supports each other. We're all there for each other when we're going through something. And that team building has been fundamental to also how we show up as a brand.
That has movement written all over it for every woman, no matter how young, how old, where she comes from, what she does. So keep going for all women, and hopefully other companies will adopt exactly what you're doing. Okay, Ani, over to you. So founder and CEO, you've had the opportunity to build leadership culture much more intentionally from the start. So what does that allow you to do differently?
So can you guys hear me? Does this work? Okay. One of the reasons I love going last is I get to hear everyone's perspective, and I have to say, like, what an honor to be sitting next to you guys. And I'm so excited because I think we're all sort of in the same path of what we're trying to accomplish. And so, Brigette, I started in investment banking, and I went through many, many years of going through culture and working for leaders that I was like, okay, cool. Like, I thrive in this, but man, does this really deplete me? And so over the course of the years, I really realized what worked and what didn't, and bringing out like my best work. And so I made it very intentional to just take notes. And when I was going to start something, because I knew ultimately I was going to start something, that I would create it from the ground up with all the key learnings. And I think it all comes back to exactly what you were saying, Tiffany, which is this idea that you have to, as a leader, just have this like relentless idea of who you are as a person and create that sort of culture around you, because kind of similar to what you had done, I was in the same position. I created the brand a year ago. We launched it about a year ago. And I was going through a divorce, and I had 2 kids. I overnight became a single parent, and I do too the same thing. It's a very open culture where it's, you know, exactly where I am. I have days where I literally will say, like, kids not doing well, block off calendar. I pick up my kids every day from school. I pick them up. I take them to school, pick them up. It's on my calendar. It's very visible what we're doing. But similarly, we're trying to change the conversation of you can do it. You can work, you can take care of it. You just need that fluidity to be able to do it, and no one's going to get penalized. And that is a core element of the culture that I'm trying to build. And, you know, to me, it's kind of how do you create that safety to be able to essentially rise to your genius. And there are days where you're going to be all in work, and there are days you just can't because something's come up, and that's okay. And, you know, I try to lead by example. In every status meeting that I have, I show up saying, hey, listen, like, today, this is where I'm at. Like, I got 10% in me. I got like 3 things that are on my mind that are not work related, but I'm going to like get through it the best that I can to be supportive. And I think it's just, you know, being honest, and it's being vulnerable, and it's being, you know, courageous. But I do think it's important, whether you're a man or a woman, I think it's important to have those, you know, conversations. But yeah, it's been amazing to sort of build it from ground up and kind of curate it the way we feel is energizing for the people.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. I'm going to ask you another question in
Yes.
terms of leadership behaviors. And what leadership behavior do you feel is outdated, needs to go?
So I think there are so many. I would say the biggest one for me is this idea of like leading through fear. And I will tell you, as a person today, as I sit as leading a team, one of my greatest fears is if people are scared to speak up. And I have this thing where I don't care who you are, where you sit, I want to hear from you. And I don't want to just hear from you because something task didn't get done. I want to hear from you if you think strategically I'm making a bad decision. And I will open up that forum. And one of the greatest moments I'll share, we had an all hands and we were launching a category, a whole new category we're going into. And one of the marketing coordinators, which is essentially an entry role position, literally raised her hand on Zoom and said, I know you've made this decision, but, I was wondering if you would reconsider it based on, X, Y, and Z, just because I think strategically this will in the long term, like have a better output. And I was like, oh my God, that's like, I didn't even actually think about it in that way, because as a leader, you're sort of operating at the 30,000 feet and the trenches. And so sometimes that change in like altitude is a little bit nauseating and disorienting. And for her to take that minute was, one of the prouder moments. And I told everybody, like, this is how it should be. Like, everybody should have a voice and you should speak and not fear any sort of like backlash. To me, that's how you,
Can I add on to that real quick? Because that inspired me. Somebody said something to me once that really stuck with me. And it was like, who are you as a leader? It's so easy to be a great leader when the business is going well. You're like, we're doing it. It's up and to the right. Let's go. Who are you as a leader when things aren't going well? And are you acting from a place of integrity through all of the waves of the business? Do you treat your team differently? Do you talk to them differently? Are you proud of how you were that day when something failed or sales are down or whatever's going on? And, we had a bobble last year at Bobbie and, we had to climb out of a little bit of a hole, and it was hard because we've been just trucking along for 4.5 years. But it's like, I wanted to go to sleep every night knowing that like I was acting from a place of integrity no matter what was going on with the business. And I always I keep that in my heart as I move through this craziness of a startup.
Great point. And I think, Ani, what you're saying is leaders learning to listen is a big opportunity for a lot of companies in this world. So let's hope they're all hearing you out there. Over the birds.
Yeah.
Kim, I have another question for you. So you just talked about, listening and learning and hearing from your people. How do you lead by example in your role? What does transparency look like, which you just talked about, particularly around work-life balance and mom life?
Well, I remember do you guys remember the money diaries that were in Refinery 29 that just took the world by storm because women were actually talking about finances for the first time? I feel really passionately about that version of care and what is your actual support system at home. And like, don't hide your nanny. Don't hide your meal delivery system. Don't hide the fact that you're relying on grandparents. You're relying on an amazing husband who has to be present because you're on a plane every other week. Like, there is a layer of transparency on the support that it takes to even operate at this level. And I think pretending like you're just doing it all is like a very toxic trait. And so I'm always very honest about what it took to my team to be able to do this and operate, and be able to have a 4, 6, and 8-year-old and literally go on work trips at least 2 to 3 times a month. Like, that's tough on my family. But I just try to always talk about what's actually going on. I will, again, put on my calendar, I'm going to my kids' kindergarten play today. And just, that's okay. We all have lives that exist outside of this job, and you're allowed to be a whole person and not just an employee at Bobbie.
Thank you. Brigette, back to you. So CMOs carry tremendous, dare I say, enormous commercial pressure. And how do you choose to balance decisiveness with inclusion without slowing momentum?
So two traits we've talked about, right? Which is about humility of I don't have all the answers or I don't have all the perspectives sometimes, that I need to hear that from the team around me or my agency partners. And I invite that to challenge me. At the same time, you have to have the confidence to say, Elmo, right? Enough, let's move on. I now know and I need to trust myself of this is what needs to happen. This is the strategy. We're going to go in circles otherwise. And that is really important because I think, particularly as women, everyone wants to be liked and everyone wants to be heard and everyone wants to make sure we included everyone. And there's a point where it's like, I can't. And I'll give a really recent example. We are launching an app. It's a Joy app that we're working on. It's just kind of a fun filter thing. And everyone has a different perspective of like how the technology works and what it needs to be. And the poor guy who's actually creating this, every time we do this, we're in this just 10 different points of perspective. And I was like, enough. We discussed this the other day. It's going to land on this, bring these two back, like da-da-da-da-da, and just go. And it felt harsh in the moment. And I could even hear myself. I'm like, we're going in circles in the frustration. But it was like, we just can't. This is crippling us if we can't make a decision and go forward. And I think the other piece is you got hired at any role because of your capability. And you sometimes have to remind yourself, you forget the organization forgets the capability you have, but remind yourself why they hired you in the first place, because you've had experience. You're not an idiot. You're not coming to work trying to tank it. You're doing your best and you've got some wisdom and technical knowledge, probably in whatever domain you have, to make that call. And I think that's the ability to have confidence in yourself to say, you know, we're good. Like, great, we heard everyone, but you know, respectfully, we're moving on.
Love it. Okay, Tiffany, back to you. So what changes when leadership success becomes collective rather than individual?
I love this question.
Love it for you.
I'm obsessed with this question. First of all, thank you so much. I wrote a book called Drop the Ball. If you're one of those people that thinks you can't drop a ball, I'm a big advocate of dropping them left and right in order for you to achieve results and actually create change in the world. The reason why I love this question is because of the role that community plays in elevating all of us. After I wrote the book, I founded a company called The Crew that matched women in accountability circles to help them reach their life goals, because I really believe that we all have got to do this together. I love listening. And one of the things that we do at the Tory Burch Foundation is we host a fellows program. So we identify very early stage entrepreneurs. You need to have at least $75,000 or more in revenue a year. And we bring you into our ecosystem. We've been doing this for over a decade now. 91% of the entrepreneurs that we support are still in business. A third of them are now running multi-million-dollar companies. And when I do my office hours listening tour with them, I usually ask two questions. The first question is, when you were applying to the fellowship program, what did you hope to receive? What did you want to get out of it? And there's a bunch of different answers to that question. And then I ask them as a follow-up, okay, so now you've been through the program, now you're building your company. What have you received that you feel like has been the biggest accelerator to the longevity of your business, the growth of your business, the sustainability of your business? And they all have only one answer. Every time I ask the question, they say community. Whenever we have a problem, and this is especially true for women, the first question that we usually ask ourselves is, how am I going to solve this problem? That is not the first question I want anyone leaving this room to ever ask themselves ever again, okay? That's it. The first question you should always ask yourself is, who's going to help me solve this problem? And if you don't even know the answer to that question, community is always the answer. Because when you're a part of a community, you can crowdsource, you can reach out. And that is actually the biggest resource that we have for ourselves as leaders, and certainly for entrepreneurs. And so I think it's incredibly important.
And there's 4 billion women and girls in the world. Each of them, right, has a unique promise. So they're all depending on you right now. So thank you. Okay, Carina, back to you. So, and you touched on this before in your answer, but maybe we'll go a little bit deeper about a risk that you took that redefined your organization and how it thinks.
I think, first of all, everyone in this room, if you're in marketing, like you're taking risks all the time, and it's probably the most riskiest position to be in because we have the most exciting opportunities to change like all the time over the decades that we've been in marketing. I think I've taken many, many risks. Doing rebrandings, I've done this for a really long time with multiple brands, but especially rebranding to Bucherer was like a huge undertaking where I need everyone's buy-in to change everything from the napkin to the whole store design. Like our stores today are designed to foster community, to really foster hospitality, like the way we do clienteling today. Like these are huge risks that we have taken over the time, or everything in digital transformation, or now like working on AI roadmaps. I think the key to success, if you take those risks, is you need to bring your peer group along, is you need to showcase process stability. You need to make sure that everyone understands why you're doing what you're doing, and you need to have access to data points. Like I've always been a huge fan of running fully integrated marketing organizations where you have e-commerce, where you have CRM, so that you have access to the data and you can showcase your work rooted in data.
Very good. Love that. All right, I'll be back to you. Again. Can you guys hear me? Okay, good. All right. Founders are often expected to project uncertainty at all times, or certainty, I should say.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said uncertainty, which would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yes.
How do you think about vulnerability, conviction, and trust as a leader?
So to me, all those are sort of interrelated, right? I think through vulnerability, you get trust, and trust allows for the ability to sort of project and have conviction. I think for me, everybody who comes through our company as new hire orientation, we do these things called the operating manual. So everybody will literally write how they're wired. So it's like, kind of, again, going back to what you were saying, Tiffany, where it's like, you have to know who you are, right? What are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? And so, and we also do an Enneagram. And so for me, I know exactly what my Enneagram is. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. The team is also like wanted to do the birth signs, which is a little off-putting for me, but like whatever, we'll go along with it. So I'm a Capricorn, and I'm an Enneagram 1, which means through and through, like I can cut through like noise and make decisions like in a second. But that's also my kryptonite. So my vulnerability isn't necessarily like what is uncertain. It's more about, am I thinking about this correctly? So going to the key leaders and saying, what am I missing? What information do I have that I'm missing that would go into making this decision? And really working through and workshopping together on how, like, are we thinking about this correctly? Are we moving together in the right place? So it's more about that rather than really looking at like uncertainty, if that makes sense.
All right, I think we have enough for one more question and one lightning round. Is that right? Okay. So I'm going to give this one to Kim. Kim, you're answering this for my 29-year-old daughter.
What was that?
I'm going to answer this question for my 29-year-old daughter.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm always thinking about this for her as a working mom. I was a single working mom, blah, blah, blah. So I'm always trying to teach her in an unteaching sort of way. So what's one leadership myth you think younger women should ignore?
That having a baby will ruin your career.
Oh my God, I love that.
I think
it's be a grandma's thing.
Yes. And I think that there are so many great companies out there that have generous, beautiful paid leave for new parents, mom or dad. The culture is shifting. Virginia just passed a 12-week paid leave, which is huge. And I think that it is on you to find the business that is going to give you the culture that you want to be a part of. I'll tell you guys a quick story. One of my all-time top performing LinkedIn posts, which I never would have predicted this, was a screenshot from a Zoom session of the day that I promoted our brand designer to an art lead. She was 9 months pregnant, and it was the day that she was leaving for maternity leave. And I said, before you go, I want to make sure that you know you're amazing, we value you, and that's why we're promoting you before you go on mat leave. And She cried and she had this big bump in the picture. She like stood up and like gave a peace sign. I was so proud to do that because she earned it. And did we have to do it in that moment? No. But why wait? If she earned it then, she earned it when she came back. And people were so blown away with the fact that a company would promote somebody the day that they're going on maternity leave. And I realized, oh, wow, this is rare. And that toxic culture around being pregnant at the workplace very much still exists in so many places. And I do think it is on women and mothers to lead by example and to change that culture from the top down. And I'm really, really proud to be able to do that. So that's what I would tell your daughter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think what we've all touched on here today is that leadership does not need to fit into a legacy mold.
No.
So I would say to all of us out here, let's do things differently. Let's do it the way it feels instinctually right to do. These women certainly are doing amazing, amazing things. I also want to say that, the safety issue that we talked about and creating community is so important. And what we need to do that is support each other in the workplace and in life, because without each other, we're nowhere. So we are a community. And of course, helping younger women come up, because we're seeing them as much more confident. I could say this with pride, much more confident, much more ready to go at it, but they still need that little push and getting over some of those insecurities. So I'm going to have my last question focus on that. We're just going to go right down the line because I know we're out of time. The next generation of leaders must.
I did the lightning round first, so I'm going to make this a slower strike.
You can use a phrase. You don't have to use a word.
The next generation of leaders just must be real. They just have to be real. We are humans. We are infallible. You have to get your shit done. You have to be accountable. But you don't have to do it the way a fake world was meant to do it. So do it in your reality.
The next generation of leaders must trust themselves.
Love it.
So I'm going to go back to my one that I've been saying the whole time, but the next leaders should know themselves through and through.
I'm going to say that the next generation of leaders should approach everything with a growth mindset, and that you're there to learn, because it is changing so fast every day in real time. And if you can't stay nimble and grow and learn with the way that marketing channels are shifting, you're not going to be able to remain. I need to take my own advice.
So we all, yeah.
Like, allow yourself to be a little bit patient and humble, but also know that culture is not just like a couple of words that are written on a wall somewhere. Culture starts with you, and you are part of creating culture in your work environment, in your community, and beyond. And that will ultimately also re-impact the brand.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so well said. We are a part of making that culture. I want to thank you guys so much. I wish I had another 3 hours with you, but you're baking in the sun, I can see. So we'll move on. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.